Before we begin, I want to let listeners and viewers know that today's episode deals with a discussion about sexual assault and trauma through the voice of a man who lived it. Male survivors are often left out of these conversations, not because their experiences are rare, but because silence is expected of them. My guest today is Quinton Wimberly, who is sharing his own story on his own terms. Not to relive the pain, but to give language to something that a lot of men quietly carry. Now, while we won't be focusing on graphic details, some of the information in this episode could be triggering. So please take care of yourself while listening and feel free to pause, skip, and come back to this episode when you're ready. And if you're listening or watching to understand someone else better, well, thank you for being here with openness and respect. Let's begin.
It's a topic that's rarely talked about, especially in rap music. But Compton-born and raised artist YG is now opening up about his experience with sexual assault when he was just a teenager.
At what age did you comprehend that what happened to you was sexual assault?
When it happened, like, I wasn't thinking about it, or like it wasn't like a thing like that. It was like, oh, I just did some with an older woman, like it's lit, like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But then as you grow up and then you start thinking about, you go through life and you see stuff and you learn stuff. It's like, no, that was, man, I got raped.
You cannot violate a person's personal boundaries.
Terry Crews, the former NFL linebacker turned actor, adding his voice to the tidal wave of people sharing their claims of sexual assault in Hollywood.
And people say, well, man, you should just laugh it off. You should just forget it. You know, no, I'm not going to forget it.
It's something that very few men would ever dare speak about, especially in a public setting like a U.S. Senate hearing. The former football star was praised for his courage, but now he's being mocked by rap singer 50 Cent, who posted this insulting photo of Crews. I got my wife just watched.
I'm building a birdhouse, and, you know, he had his hands in my pants. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, what is this? And I felt my body betraying me because I felt, it's odd because I felt an erection at that age.
That's when the touching, the late night grabs, and I mean, everything from touching to fellatio to, he tried everything. And so I became the sacrificial lamb in a way. Where do I blow this whole thing up and we're homeless, or do I just let it happen? Because that person is still alive, and they're very much still part of my family. And they even requested me on Facebook as a Facebook friend, which that's a story for a different day. Because I confronted him when that happened. I was like, "You out of your mind."
Love me or hate me, God knows you made it when he let his eyes on me.
For my listeners and my viewers who are going to be seeing you for the first time, Quinton, what do you want them to know about you before we even get into the conversation?
Well, so I am 38 years old. I'm a father of 3. I'm currently engaged. I've been working in healthcare for 18 years. I currently work as a clinical operations manager for oncology practice.
Nice.
Where I oversee nurses and phlebotomists and things of that nature. I'm a basketball coach. Been doing that for 5 years. I'm a military veteran.
Nice.
And I mentor young men and women as much as I possibly can. So my day is filled with just helping people. That's always been my calling. Grew up in Georgia. I am a blend of Caribbean and, African American culture, like on my mom's side, or Dominican. Yeah, Dominican and Barbados, and then on my dad's side is African American. So.
To say where your people from? Where your people from? Okay, so you got a mixture of Asian and Dominican Republic. Okay, nice.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
wonderful. And thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
I have to ask, I'm sure you've shared some of your story with, of course, your inner circle, I think. But what made you want to have this conversation now?
I've been looking out, in these YouTube, TikTok, social media streets, and it seems it's such a big divide. And so I found your channel, and I'm like, wow, between your channel and maybe like Abba and Preach, I don't know if I can say it, but y'all.
No, I love them. I love them.
You guys seem to be very middle of the road, and I'm like, why can't we have these conversations without people trying to pit one another against each other, or say my side is right. And with men in particular, I survived so much stuff, kidnapping, essay, things of that nature growing up. And I see that it had a profound effect on me. The more I tried to repress it, the more damage I was doing. And it wasn't until I started sharing, my therapist started helping me, and I started to like give back and show people how to navigate those streets, that I actually started to feel fulfilled. And
Yeah.
for a long time, I was like, okay, do I want to share this? And then my friends started opening up to me, and then some of the kids started opening up to me, and I'm like, wow, I'm not alone. Like, maybe God allowed me to go through these things so I can share it. And so I hopped on, and then your catchphrase of encouraging people to have private conversations in
Private
public,
conversations.
I was like, hey, it was a sign. I hopped online, and I've been doing it for like 2 months, I think now, about 2 months. So
Wow. I love to hear that. And I remember when, for the viewers who don't know, Quinton had reached out for mentorship, and he was so kind and understanding. I told him, like, with my demands for my job and for everything else, I wouldn't feel good saying yes, because I wouldn't be able to give him the time he needs, at least at this time. And when you shared the story about being essayed, and for the viewers and the listeners, I don't know his story. He just mentioned it, and mentioned that he had been kidnapped, and I was intrigued, and I said I wanted to have him on the platform. Um, this is not something that a lot of men are comfortable talking about. I remember Tyler Perry coming out. He was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and he did the rounds like many years ago when he talked about being essayed. For those of you who don't know what essayed is, it's a sexual assault. YouTube is really funny about having these types of conversations, and I hate that, because I really would love to say the word, because I don't want to minimize anything. I don't want to downplay anything, but it's sexual assault. I remember Tyler Perry talking about it, and the reaction that he got was not entirely positive. There were people who questioned how a man would allow himself, even though he was a young boy at
absolutely.
the time, how a man could allow himself to get in that position, or why didn't he defend himself? And so I was very pleased to see your email, and the fact that you were willing to have this conversation, Quentin, because I think it is something that a lot of folks, they just kind of don't understand. They don't
Yes.
understand how difficult it is, especially for men. So I want you to just take us back to that time. If you,
Okay.
as much as you're comfortable, you're going to lead this conversation, because I don't want to force you into anything, but I am going to ask certain questions, and I want you
Of
to just
course.
kind of say what you're comfortable with. But like, take us back to the time when this first happened. What was the lead up like to it, and how did that change your life?
Okay. Absolutely. So I'm originally from Georgia. I came from a two-parent household initially. Around 1999, my mom and dad, pressures of marriage and being so young. I was a virgin baby. My dad eventually left the family in like the year 2000, and so that put my mom on a back foot, and we struggled a lot. And I'm the oldest, so I watched it happen. So we moved from a small town called Camilla to Savannah, Georgia, and we were there for a while, and everything was going great. And then, but we had a financial snag, and we had to move back to Camilla, and we moved back with no money, and we was trying to find someone to stay with, and it was my dad's cousin. She invited us into her home, and that's when it all started. He's my third cousin, and we moved back. He took a keen interest in me. He was always kind of like, oh, you can come in my room, you can come stay with me. He was older than me about 4 years, so I was around 12 at this time, 12 or 13, and my mom would go to work, and he would kind of watch us because his mom would be at work, and he would start to like try to entice me. This started a long time ago. It actually started when I was 10 before we left. He would try to make me like, he wanted to touch on me, and I wasn't feeling comfortable. I would run away. When I came back, I was in a room with him. I had to share a room with him, and that's when the touching, the late night grabs, and I mean, everything from touching to fellatio to he tried everything. And I would tell my mom, and at the time, and I don't blame her for it now. We kind of moved past it. She was so afraid of kind of like losing, um, in my opinion, our living situation, that she was
Right.
kind of like, oh no, it's not happening, it's not happening. No, what are you talking about? He won't do that. His mom defended him, and so I became the sacrificial lamb in a way. Where do I blow this whole thing up, and we're homeless, or do I just let it happen? And so for a while, I let it happen. I really did. I let it happen. Um,
Mm.
and we eventually got enough money. We moved out, and I buried it. I suppressed it as much as I possibly can. And then we go a while, and then we suffer this type of event again. We go back in his presence, and this time I'm much older. I'm 15. He's around 19, I think,
Right.
maybe 20. And I go play basketball with my friends. I come back, and I have little brothers, two twin brothers, and I was like, "Where are the twins?" And my mom was like, "Oh, they're in the room with, you know," and I lose it. I go in there and I attack him. And my mom, for the first time, she was like, "It was then I knew everything you said was true. It was
In that
then,
moment,
in that moment," she said, "Because I'm
because she
not
saw your
about."
reaction.
Yes, I'm never not a violent kid. In fact, I used to get like bullied a lot. And I used to run home. I used to have glasses, and people used to beat me up. And so I was not a violent person. It was that moment that started that catalyst where I had a hard time controlling my anger after that moment. So I attacked them to the point where they had to call the cops almost. They actually did call the cops, and my mom saw that raised and that hurt in my eyes, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, my son was actually SA'd and he was not lying."
Hmm.
And for a long time, I resented her so much. 'Cause I'm like, now you believe me. And then my father, who I told, my dad was old school Southern man. So it's like you said, he was like, "Oh, that can't happen to a boy." So he was very dismissive. And then he would say things like, "Oh," because I became reclusive when it was going on. So I would always read. I was always be in my room drawing, and I never go outside. And he was like, "No, why you don't play football? Why you don't go outside with the boys?" I'm like, "I don't want to do that."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
you saw a Sandy director in terms of
Yeah.
you're this, you're that." And I'm like,
Hmm.
that it hurt me. So I realized that I had to be my own hero. I had to be my own father. I had to be the person who loved me the most. So I became that barrier between my siblings and anyone that will hurt them. And so that was the culmination of all of it. And say, but and then the kidnapping and the other things started prior to that. So it was trauma. It was trauma
So,
all the way through.
so we're going to get into that part, but I want to go back to two things
Okay.
because you had to stay inside of his room. What
Yes.
was your interaction like? Because you said he would come and creep in the middle of the night and
Hmm.
touch you and do certain things to you. When morning came and you're in the kitchen, when you have to use the bathroom, when you're just having regular interaction, what was that like with him?
It was it was hard. It was really hard. Like I really had a hard time being around him. I spent most of my time in my head, believe it or not. Like you kind of learn to disassociate, and that's kind of what
Yeah.
I did. I the reason why I read so much, is because I learned how to live in the lives of people on the page. Um,
Mm.
I even wrote a book called and I kind of that character, even though it's not necessarily based on my story, um, that story of redemption. I told myself I'm going to redeem myself, but every day I told myself, "Quentin, get to 18, get to 18, just get 18," and that's why I joined the military. I had to get away because I knew for a fact if I stayed there, I'm not sure if I'll be here because I got to a dark place. I mean, a dark place. I'm from a super religious family. Like my grandmother's a pastor. I'm from a super religious family. But for the longest time, I was like, God can't possibly love me. And I started looking for love anywhere. I mean,
Mm.
anywhere. I'm like, if God don't love me, then maybe the devil can love me. It was that bad. Um, and no
You,
one saw that pain.
hearing you say that you just wanted to get to 18, I was having a conversation with someone about 3 weeks ago. And it's not a similar situation where this child is being essayed, but they're in a sort of emotionally abusive environment. And in talking to this child, she's like, I just cannot wait to turn 18. I just cannot
Yeah.
wait to turn 18 so I could get out of here. So I can get out of here. And I got so emotional listening because it was like she's rushing through her childhood,
Yes.
a time when she should just be enjoying no bills. This is the most
Yes.
freedom, someone to take care of you. Like I wish I could go back to childhood. And I'm
100%.
watching and talking to this person just wanting to rush through
Yeah.
the teenage years just to get to 18 to get away. And that's just so unfortunate for a lot of kids. And your situation too with talking to your father and your situation is not unique. So many men and women, men will say, "Oh, my father would just tell me to toughen up, man up," and
Yes.
it's so demoralizing for the kid because it's like, who do you go to if you're going to your parents and they're just kind of like brushing it by the wayside?
Yes.
And then also listening to you say And this was the part that kind of like hit me hard, that you didn't want to mess the situation up for you. You didn't want to mess your living situation up. So you took it. You took that on yourself. That must have been like traumatizing. At least it would have been for me, because it's like on the one hand, I don't want this to happen to me. But on the other hand, I love my family so much. I don't want to mess it up for them.
Exactly. And it was. And it was. I haven't been home since 2010. I haven't been back home. But yeah, I talk to my mom on the phone every day, or we text, but I have not been in Georgia since 2010 when I got stationed out here. Back in 2010, have not been home. And people often ask me, why do I go home? And they don't understand. I left a piece of me over there, and to return to that piece,
Hmm.
and absorb it back into myself. I dealt with the pain, but I dealt with it in bite-sized pieces, because taking all of that in, I don't even know to this day what it would actually do to me, because that person is still alive, and they're very much still part of my family. And they even requested me on Facebook as a Facebook friend, which that's a story for a different day, because I confronted him when that happened. I was like, "You out of your mind? You must be
Right.
out of your mind." So, and
I traumatized you, and then now I want to be your Facebook friend.
yeah, it's crazy. And he was like, "Well, it happened to me too." And I'm like,
I
"So
was just about to ask that question.
yeah,
Oh my God, you took, I was going to say, maybe it happened to him.
it did, it did."
And
And
so
he
the
became
vicious cycle continues.
100%, and that's why I wanted to break it. That's why I'm so protective. I have three sons. I'm so protective of my sons. I'm protective of any child that's in my presence. If anything look amiss, I'm I'm right there. I'm like, excuse me, are you that parent? Because people don't know.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it now is that when it comes down to women and little and young women, there's an eye on it now. We see it, but it's that boy. And it's not just, and I wasn't just essaying by men, I was essaying by older women too, much older women. It was a
Are you
cycle for me,
serious?
100%. I was 16. There was a 26-year-old. I was 15. There was a 32-year-old. It was a cycle for me. And that's why when I got old enough, of age, 18, 19 years old, I had this, uh, like I want to date older women. I want to date older women because I thought they understood me, not realizing it had changed me from when I was younger. I got
Mhm.
exposed to it, and therefore I was kind of groomed to seek that out. so
It
it,
is
it's
grooming. It's
so
absolutely 100% grooming. The other question I had for you, and I don't want to forget it, is when you heard that the twins were with him, you said you immediately went in there and you started pummeling him.
yes.
Did anything happen to the twins? Oh, shameless plug, because I'm also a writer. If you're trying to start YouTube, grow your channel, or survive being a content creator without losing your mind, I've got a blog that breaks all of that down. It's about strategy, yes, but it's also about that stuff that content creators don't really like talking about: burnout, inconsistency, algorithm anxiety, bad advice, and why half of the growth hacks that you see online are nonsense. Look, I'm not promising overnight success or secret tricks, because I wasn't an overnight success and I didn't have any secret tricks. But what my blog does offer is practical, honest advice from a content creator who's actually doing this and has made a ton of mistakes along the way, so you don't have to. If you're building a channel, starting a new one, or questioning all of your life choices because of the analytics, then I've got you. And this blog's for you. So head to thisbahamiangyal.com. The link will be on the screen and tagged down below. Read responsibly, if
Yes.
I can ask that question.
Yes, you can. So actually, all four of my mom's kids. So me, my brother, and my brother and the twins. We all had an encounter with him. He never went as far as he did with me, but he had them, like, like suck his breast. He would like try to funnel them, but he never did anything beyond that. And I didn't learn that until much when I was much older, and they told me, "Oh, it happened to me too." And one of the twins actually attacked him when they saw him on the street, because he is our cousin, and but he attacked him, and I'm like, wow, like this man was like, yeah, he's hurting, he's in pain. I can empathize with that to some degree, but he became the very monster that he was, that attacked him. And so yeah, so all four of us, the only person who escaped any type of damage was my sister, thank God. But my sister was the only one who never experienced any type of SA or anything of that nature.
You said your mom's realized in that moment when you were attacking him because you're not a violent person that, oh my God, this had to have happened to my son just to see this reaction.
Yep.
How have other family members reacted? Do they believe that he's done these things that you're saying he did? Or is it
His Oh, sorry. So my dad believes me now. Most of my family believe me now when they see that hurt because again, everyone knows me as like, oh, that's Quentin. He's the fast talking, like smart kid, but like not the beat you upside the head, type of person. And so when I tell the story, I used to cry. The fact I can speak to you and not break down, I used to break down every single time. It took so long to get to this point. But they believe me now. But his mother is in denial to this day. She feels like, oh, you guys are just trying to make my son out to be a bad guy. And I'm like, lady, you was not there when that time where we had a big storm and he crept into, because I eventually I left this room, went to the living room. I stopped sleeping on the couch, and he walked to that couch and he went up under that blanket and he gave, he did something to me, and that was the first time I ever had that experience. I never like he used his mouth, and I never like before in my life, and I was like, whoa, what is that? And I told people, I said it messed me up in the head because the first time I had any type of um experience, and that it was that person. Like,
again, you're just saying that, and it's so funny you're saying that. Um, Again, Tyler Perry, when he was speaking to Oprah, and I always reference him because he was very outspoken about it.
yes,
He talked about his body betraying him. And I was
yeah,
intrigued by that. And I said, your body betraying you. And what he's saying is something happened to me that I did not want, but I
yeah,
had a reaction and it
to it,
really
yeah,
messed with me because it's like, well, do I enjoy this? Do I like this? Because
yeah,
my body is now reacting. And you have to kind of work through that process to say, no, I don't. It's a human body. If it's stimulated in any sort of way, it's going to react. It has nothing to do with your emotions and you mentally,
yeah.
And so I'm happy you're to the place where you can have a conversation without breaking down. That must have taken a lot of work. How did you work through this?
It was definitely it was a journey. So at first, I had once that happened, and then I wasn't believed, and then I eventually got to a place where I could defend myself, and no one can do that to me ever again. Um, I had a visceral reaction to any type of human touch. I did not like being touched. I didn't like being hugged by anyone, and that kind of exists to this very day. My ex-wife, she said, you're not a affectionate person. You're just
Hmm.
not. And I'm like, well, I do my duty, and I do my duty, the duties of a husband and all that good stuff. But the hand holding and the letting down my guard, I couldn't do it. I
Mm.
couldn't do it. Now and now we got divorced and we're still good friends to this day. But with my current significant other, like I've learned how to. I've grown. I can show affection. I can be vulnerable, but it was difficult. It was a so going back to how it started. Once that happened, I had a strong reaction to anybody who I viewed. Um, how can I say this? It's not YouTube flagging. So any same sex person, male,
Mm.
I hated them. I did because I couldn't
Mm.
I couldn't speculate a
Oh yeah.
like a predator from that.
Yeah. Yep.
So I didn't
I understand.
I was that person. I was like, oh, get those people away from me. And then once I got into in the military and I met a lot of great, amazing gay individuals, and they were like, no, that person was a
Hmm.
predator. That can
You're
be
right.
anything, and they, and they
Hmm.
they say even those women were predators, and I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
oh my god, and
That's true. It's
that's how I
true.
started to heal. That's when I started saying, okay, okay, Quentin. So because for a long time in the back of my head, like Tyler Perry said, is that part of me? Am I
Hmm.
bi? Am I straight? What I love women, but why did I react?
Hmm.
I love women. Why did this happen to me? And so I worked through so much stuff, therapy. Thank God I had no substance abuse, but just therapy
Hmm.
and reclusiveness, and every relationship I would just destroy it because I couldn't let myself love because I didn't love me.
Mm.
I did not love me. I thought I did. I thought because I had confidence that mean I had love. And those things are not necessarily the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm confident in myself, but I didn't love myself because in
Mm.
those vulnerable
It's a big
moments,
difference.
Exactly. I was confident in those strong moments, but when I needed to be vulnerable, mm-mm, it was time to run
Yeah.
away.
And just so you know, too, a lot of women, they struggle with this as well. Women who were, um, I hate YouTube sometimes. I want
I
to say the
know.
R. I want to say the
Yeah.
R
Oh.
word,
Oh yeah.
but yeah. But let's just say essayed, right? And not even by someone they knew, by a stranger, they've
Mm.
had an orgasm
Oh
during
yeah.
that act. And they've reported saying, well, they question themselves too, did I like it? Because on some level, did I enjoy it? Because that happened. And again, like I said, it's a human body. You put me out in 2-degree weather, I'm going to get cold. You put me in the heat, I'm
Exactly.
going to get,
We're hot.
whether I want to or not, the body's just going to react. I want to know, when you think back on that period in that house with him, with the fear that you had of the family being homeless, having to go somewhere else if you ruffle feathers or rock the boat too much. What stood out or what stands out emotionally to you about that time,
Um,
if anything?
I will say I learned then, and it's still kind of my philosophy to this day. I learned that sometimes love is sacrifice. I love my mom. I love my family, and I had to
Mm,
sacrifice. And though it was a negative sacrifice, it's true. I practice sacrificial love. In order for me to make you feel comfortable, I have to sacrifice something about myself. For every moment, for every minute I spend with you, I'm not spending with myself or doing what I want to do. And so I told myself that I'll be that sacrificial lamb, and I did. So basketball, I love basketball. I was a really good
mhm,
basketball player, but I quit to start working because my mom needed help. So I
mm,
went and got a job. And I worked all the way through high school and beyond. And even when I went into the military, I was sending money home. So I had to sacrifice my dreams. I continue to
mm,
do so. I just now learned how to kind of like carve out a little piece just for myself, just so I
mhm.
can like, Quentin, you need to exist inside of father, inside of husband, inside of coach, inside of manager. You need to exist somewhere in there, or else you run the risk of being lost. And so
Of course.
I learned to sacrifice. That's what I learned from that moment, from that time.
This is a touchy question that I'm going to ask.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable, please don't answer it. But I want to ask, you know, with this male family member of yours, he explained to you that he was essayed,
Hmm.
that he was touched. Um, One thing that I've heard people who were molested, essayed from others say is they fear having children because they don't want, what if something has been put in their mind to want to do that to their own kids? I'm not phrasing it properly, but
I get it.
they fear repeating the cycle to their own children.
Hmm.
Okay, because that happened to him, from somebody else we don't know. This happened to you. Was there ever a time or a consideration where you're like, oh my God, I hope that I don't do that? Or is it just a case of, no, I have to be uber protective of my kids now because I know what happened?
It was the other side. Like I had, so there was two things that was kind of um, resonating inside of me at that time. Me and my dad, and we'll get to that once we get to the kidnapping and why.
Hmm.
Why I think that moment of the kidnapping and what transpired through there may actually kind of counteracted the fear of maybe me
Hmm.
touching my children. And so for me, I wanted to show my dad, this
Hmm.
is how you be a father. This is how you protect your children. So it was the opposite. Opposite. I became hyper protective, hyper vigilant, and I want to be, and especially as a black man, show people that, oh, as a black man, we don't always leave. We don't always just create children and abandon. I protect
Hmm.
mine. Mine live with me. This is my legacy. That's why my channel is Life and Legacy. This is my legacy, and I will make sure that as long as I draw breath, they will make it, in life. Period. And so it
I
was the
love that.
opposite.
I love that. And I always tell people, you don't have to fall prey to the same vicious cycle. You can be
Hmm.
the one that breaks it. You can break those chains.
Absolutely.
Um, what do you want people to understand about male survivors? Because, when I started off talking, I told you how so many people, when it comes to women, we go, well, some women, because sometimes they don't even
Yeah.
believe women. They don't, let me back up. Let me back it
That's
up.
true.
Let me back it up.
That
Some
is
women,
true.
they just, they don't understand. Sometimes they say women deserve it, that sort of thing. She looked for it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But with men, again, there's this thought process that you're supposed to be the provider, you're the protector, you're the defender, you're the man, you got the strength.
Hmm.
Why are you, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you fight them off? What is like the one of the biggest misperceptions or misconceptions that you've heard about when it comes to male survivors of sexual assault?
I would definitely. You kind of hit the nail on the head. People always ask me, why didn't you fight back? I said, guys, this person is 4 years older than me. So when
Mm-hmm.
I'm 10, he's 14. When I'm 12, he's
Mm-hmm.
16. I don't know where you come from, but on average, an older man will overpower a younger man on
Yeah,
average. You know,
on average.
me as a 30, as 38-year-old man, if you put a 14-year-old boy, he's not winning.
Right.
He's not winning.
No.
So it's like they say, why you didn't fight back? Or they'll say, why you didn't tell someone? I'm like, no one believes, they don't believe women, so they're not going to believe a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, then you have people who are ignorant and say you must have liked it. Maybe something you enticed them. I said, how am I enticing someone by existing? I just existed. I simply just I walked into the house and I was a human kid. I was a child. My childhood has been disastrous from 5 until 18. I didn't really start living until after I left home. But right now I just survived, and that's why I always say that's the difference between surviving and living. Those things are
Mm-hmm.
worlds apart. But that's the biggest misconception. They think that we either borrow ourselves or we didn't fight hard enough. But you could be broken. Like when any abuse victim get taken advantage of, something inside you breaks,
Mm-hmm.
and when you look for help and no one helps you,
Mm-hmm.
you learn to accept it. In psychology, there's a thing called learned helplessness, and you learn how to be
Mm-hmm.
helpless. You learn how to,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it means surviving, because he could. What if he killed him? Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but
Yeah.
what if I was
No, no, no.
unalive? Sorry, what if I was
Yeah.
unalive?
No, no. You learning the YouTube lingo.
Yeah, what
No,
if
but
I
it's
was?
fine.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's a lot of things that went into it, and I just want people to understand that a vulnerable person is a vulnerable person regardless of gender. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. A sleeping individual is vulnerable. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how strong he is. If someone wants to take advantage of you, they will. And and what happened when it comes out to men, once you go through that, something in that man breaks, and two
Mm-hmm.
things happen. That to me, from what I've seen, that's two divergent roads. You have a man who runs from those emotions and he bottles everything up, and you get those emotionless men. The one when women say, "Oh, he's so repressed, he doesn't share with me,
Yeah.
he's not emotional," or you get the man who's hypersexual.
Mm-hmm.
He's womanized.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing all
Mm-hmm.
that. He's trying to put as many women between that event and himself as possible
This is true.
in order to survive. And those are the two prevailing thoughts. And I kind of did this on both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that along the way I was hurting people, trying to suppress my hurt.
Yeah.
And so I do want people to understand that it is a journey and it does you live with it every day. You don't get over it. You never get over it. You never do.
Even to this day, that's
I
still
used to lock my door here.
on
I
your
used
mind.
to sleep with my door locked because I was afraid someone would come into the room. This is my
Mm-hmm.
own house, and so my therapist helped me with that. Like so the fact, so it's like now I don't lock my door. When Evelyn, that's my fiance. When she moved in with me, I didn't even trust her. I would sleep with like
Mm-hmm.
something under my pillow just like what if she attacked me in my sleep? And there was a fear of that's the only time I'm vulnerable now. As a 6 foot tall, 280 pound man, like very few
Mm-hmm.
people can overpower me, but what if I'm asleep?
Mm-hmm.
And so it took so long. And my
Mm.
therapist like Quinton, and so I had to redraw that. I had to put myself in the mind and the body of 10-year-old me, and I had to tell him I had to hug him. I had to I had to
Mm.
tell him that all is forgiven and we can move forward with this before I start unlocking that door. But to this day, I can't sit with my back to anyone. That can't happen because that's on the kidnapping. But again,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to that.
And we're gonna get into that. I just, for me too, it bothers me, and I'm putting it mildly when I say it bothers me when people automatically blame especially if it's a child, right? Like they
Mhm.
automatically just go to blaming the child for you must have liked it. Why did you entice someone? I mean, to say that to a kid who's coming
Yes.
forward, like you must have enticed this person. Where's that heat? Where is that same blame for the person who attacked a child, who
Yep.
sexually assaulted that child? It's almost like I think like maybe on some human level, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but it's like maybe we just need to validate it in our brains, like to understand because we don't understand why someone would do that to this child.
Yes.
We
Hmm.
have to say it must have been something you did to draw this person. It must have been because
Yep.
why would someone do that to you? You
Yep.
know? I want to get into the kidnapping because, like I said, I was shocked when I saw your email and you said, "Oh yeah, there was essaying and of course kidnapping," and I was like, "Kidnapping?" I felt like I stepped into like a Lifetime movie.
My
I don't mean
life
to
is like,
laugh, but I'm like, your life, man, you've been through a lot, Quentin.
I can't even tell you. I mean, to tell the hat. Everyone keeps saying write your life story. I'm like, I'm not ready for that part. But
Jeez.
so I guess I will start at five because I will tell you how I got there. So
Yeah.
5 years old. We were living in Camilla still, and I had Auntie Michelle. That's my mom's baby. Well, knee baby sister. In the South, we call it knee baby. So you have the baby, you have the knee baby. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so,
Hmm.
so there was a knee baby sister, and she would always watch us whenever my mom wanted to go out and enjoy herself because she had me at 19. So she was still pretty young, and when I was five, so sometimes she wanted to go out, and my auntie would watch me. But one day my mom said, "No, he was bad. You're not watching him." We get a knock on the door in the middle of the night. Oh my God, your whole entire family is unalive. My mom's like, what?
What?
So, oh yeah. So we run. My mom's freaking out. Oh my God. So we get into the car. It was at the time 1994. So it's me, my sister, my brother's a baby. Greg is a baby. So we book it to Pelham, which is about 10 minutes from 10 to 15 miles from where we live. And we come around the bend and that whole entire house is on fire. And my mom just breaks down. She's crying. And I'm watching this and I'm seeing my grandfather try to get my auntie Michelle out of this house fire. Like, and
Are
she's
you
screaming
serious?
100%. And she's screaming like, yeah, and he's trying to bust the window, but it's so hot he can't get to her. And we see
Oh
her
my God.
hand, and she has my auntie Gwen's 6 month old daughter, Brittany, and I'm watching this happen, and we're thinking that everyone is gone, but unfortunately, well, it's weird. It's fortunate but unfortunate that the only people who were in the house was my two cousins, well, three cousins and my auntie. So it's a 6 month old baby, my cousin Kiwana and Brandy and Brandon, and they were 11 and 12. They were at the back of the house, and that part exploded. So the only thing they found of them was just fragments. And that broke my family. To this day, that still hurts my family. So my grandma lost her daughter, and my auntie lost her 6 month old daughter, and then my uncle lost two of his kids. And so my mom became super protective of us. From that event, we could barely go outside. It was and so fast forward 2 years later, I'm seven, almost eight, and my mother is pregnant with the twins. My dad's at work, he's the truck driver, and she says, Quentin, I'm craving salt and vinegar chips and a pickled egg. My uncle had a store,
Oh my
so
God.
let me see if I can give a this as a reference point. So our little apartment was here. My uncle's store was maybe had to be 5, 6, maybe 700 feet. She can see my mom can see the store from the
Right. I was gonna say
porch.
that's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, very
Uh-huh.
close. And she said, "Oh, quick, quick, go to the store." And so I walked to the store. I got what she wanted, but I love my mom. So in my elementary school, which is not was behind my uncle's store was a we had a horticulture class, and I had planted some flowers there. And like early in the school year, and I said, I'm gonna grab my mom some flowers. So I detoured instead of coming back home. I walked my little 7 year old behind all the way to the school, which was maybe from my uncle's store, maybe 1,000 feet or so. And I go to the back of the back of the school, and it's a wooded area, and a piece of it was kind of carved out from the school. But I walked in there, and I'm picking flowers, and all of a sudden I hear something. I turn around, and boom, blacked out. What is going on? I'm gone, and so I'm out for a while. I wake up, and I just rustle, and then this man, he puts me, so on my face was his t-shirt, and I'm next to this tree, and he used his belt to kind of tie me to this tree, and he's freaking out. He's going back and forth, and the whole time I'm like, what is happening? What?
How old are you again? At
7,
this time?
7.
7. Okay.
So I'm sitting here like, what is happening? Like, what? So I'm like, Mama. He's like, shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll unalive you. Like, and so I'm sitting here, I'm crying, and I had little flip flops on and back in the forest, it was like all these wood chips. So my feet had like all kind of wood chips in it, and I'm sitting here and I'm crying. He was like, shut up. He kept like pushing my head against the tree, and I'm sitting here, and he was, and so I was going. I don't know how long I was gone at that time, and after a while, and flashing back to my mom. My mom said she started to get worried, so she goes and she looks, and she's like, hey, what's my son? So she takes her pregnant behind over. She wobbles to my uncle's store. Where's Quinton? And my uncle's like, oh, he bought the chips and he went back home. She said, no, he's not home. And she's calling me, Quinton. And so she goes back. She's freaking out. She's losing her mind. She's on the phone. She calls my grandmother. The grandmother like, he's not over here because my grandmother's house is not far from mine. She's like, no, he's not over here. So they're freaking out, man. So they call my dad's job. And my dad tells my mom, I hope you found him. I can't miss this shit. So
I'm sorry. Pause,
yeah, I know.
pause,
Yeah.
pause, 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 pause.
Yes.
Your mother calls your dad,
Yeah.
freaking out because this is after she's already lost family members in that fire.
Yes.
And she calls him to say that you're missing.
Yes.
And he says, I can't miss the shift. So I hope you find him.
Yep. He said, I can't
You'd
miss
never
right now.
you'd never gone missing before or anything like that.
No. Mm-mm.
Because this was not the norm. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
quite
was,
odd.
yeah, very, very odd. And I don't really want to think my dad's a bad person. I'll get to why he's like this. My dad, we been men's, but I told him that broke me. Like once I learned that, I'll get to like so
Just two very different reactions. You know what I mean? Your mother
yeah.
being pregnant and she's going nuts looking for her child.
Yep, she's looking for me
Yeah.
and she's freaking out. So my mom does. My mom was my mom was a spitfire. Like she don't play games.
Mhm.
So she said, well, if I can't get my husband to come here, I'm gonna call my ex-boyfriend. And she called her ex-boyfriend Curtis. And so it was Curtis and my grandfather William that she called, and they all started looking for them, combing anywhere. And so I think I'm missing, I don't know how many hours at this point, and they cannot find me. My mom has a friend. So behind the schoolhouse is this long highway. It just runs along the back of the school. And my mom's friend was driving from work, and so once she learns, her name is Sal. Once Sal learns that I'm missing, she goes to my mom and she's like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Quincy's missing." And she's talking to her. She's like, "You know what's weird? I saw this man run across the street with the Georgia State prisoner outfit, the white with the blue stripe." And she's like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Yeah, he was running. I saw him on the road. It was strange." So my mom and Curtis, they go to this floor. They call it Quinton, and I hear them, but he has my mouth kind of closed, and I hear them. They're getting close. I'm like, "Yes, I'm safe." And then they start diverting the other way, and you hear,
Oh my God.
and so I'm sitting here like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, I'm gonna die.
The hope was right there and it just gets
Yeah,
snatched
it
away.
gets snatched away, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die." And he's freaking out, and this person, he was violent, but not towards kids. Like I later learned. I never learned his name because never learned his name. My mom knows it. At 7 years old, 31 years from ago, I can't even remember. I just remember I remember that feeling of being just you learn just how helpless you are. I thought I was the big boy. I'm the oldest kid. I'm the big. I'm the man. No, absolutely not.
You learn
And
very quickly.
and then Curtis went back. He said, "No, I said." And my mom said she had this feeling, and I know people will be like, "Oh my God, you're right," but like we
Oh no.
very spiritual people.
You spread
And she-
same here. That's I always say that's the Holy Spirit. You in good
Exactly.
company right here.
Exactly.
You're in good company right now.
So my mama said she actually was walking out. She saw this image of like this little creek. She's like I walked, and and she said she felt her sister basically say go back. And so she said, "Curtis, let's check one more time." And she started walking. She got to that creek. She walked over that little bridge over that creek, and the guy heard her footsteps, and he dipped. I see his little silhouette goes, and then eventually my mom found me, and she runs to me, and Curtis picked me up. He carried me all the way home. WCTV, that's the little channel, WAOB. That's Albany, Georgia. Like they wanted to interview. My mom said no. I'm not doing that. I don't. He already been through enough. So she's very protective. From then on, that lady, I couldn't do anything. Even 18-year-olds trying to go to the prom, I couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like
She
she
became
kept a
super
leash.
overprotective. Yeah.
She had a leash on us.
Yeah.
But so my dad, that type of event with my father, coupled with that the belief that I wasn't his at first because I was dark. My dad is like maybe a little bit darker than you.
Yeah.
My mom was really light,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, if you dark skin, can't be mine." And so I was there. I was 5 years old too. I remember that. So between that, him not coming to my aid, I was like, "This man don't love me," and that's when I said, I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I thought I didn't need a dad. I needed it. My mom is all I need.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have kids, I'm gonna show him. And I told him that at 18. My dad told me he loved me at 18 for the first time I remember. And he said, I love you, Quinton. Ever since. And I said, I had a disdain for you because you never treated me like I was actually your son. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, that's why I told myself when I had my kids,
Mm-hmm.
I'm never gonna do what you did. If my
Mm-hmm.
son go missing right now, San Diego will be on fire because I burn the whole thing. Somebody gonna
Oh
get back
my
to me.
God. Quentin, I admire, I don't want to cut you finishing right there, but I
That was
have to
it.
say, okay, I admire so much. I admire you so much because you are like, for me, you are a prime example of what I often tell people when they're like, well, I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have, my father in my life. I didn't have my so and so in my life. I didn't have access to this, that, and the next.
Mhm.
And it's like, you can be the person who breaks that
Yes.
vicious
Yes.
cycle. You can break those chains with, you don't, so you know what it feels like to not have what you need. Now
Yes.
you have a new
Yes.
generation coming.
Yes.
Give them everything that you didn't
Yes.
have and more. But some people just be like, well, I can't give them what I didn't have. And no, you have to. Let me ask you, how
Go.
did you find the will and the strength to do that, to change it for your children, for your boys? Tell
You, you
me.
you said it, but the thing is, the reason why I love your channel because you always, every time I think something or believe it, you just say it. It's right there. I know how to feel. I know what it felt like to not have. To not have. So
Mhm.
if I was always thirsty and I finally got water, I can empathize and relate to that thirsty. And so me, I told myself, Quentin, you didn't have a dad. And when you lead it to talk about things that maybe men go through, that maybe women don't go through, I had no one to turn to. I had to be that person, even for my siblings. I became my own father. And so I told people that's Quentin the father and Quentin the son. so I mean, God has a trinity. I guess I had to have my duality. So I had Quentin the father and Quentin the son, and so
Yeah.
and so my brother Traverius, he always says, that's my brother dad. And people are like, what? He's like, yeah, like that's he said
Yeah.
that's the one who raised me. That's my dad. That's who I look up to. And so I tell people all the time to become a victim. You can't help that you became a victim, but to continue to be a victim is a choice. That's the choice. To continue to be victimized is a choice. And people always, like you said, people say, "Oh my God, I didn't have this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but guess what? In this country, we're talking about black people in this country. The slaves didn't have. The slaves didn't have.
Hello.
They risked their
Hello.
life learning to read. They risked their life running for freedom. You don't have to
Thank
risk
you.
anything. You just simply have to do the opposite. You know what it takes to
Thank you.
be. I think is you know what it takes to not be a person of worth. Do the
Mm,
opposite. If I,
exactly.
if I
Exactly. Oh my God. I found my tribe. Oh my God. You are so on the money. And I love that. And I love that for your boys. I love that for them. I love that you did the work and you're still doing the work, I would imagine, because
well,
like you say,
yes,
it never goes away.
it
It
never
never
goes
goes
away.
away. How, or I should say, what would you say to a man who tunes into this program, is listening, watching, and they've been through what you've been through and haven't said anything, just dealing with it year after year, feeling broken, downcast because of what they went through? Like, what words of advice could you give to them?
I would tell them honestly, you owe it to that version of you from yesteryear. That child is still there. Like so a part of you is still trapped in that moment. And you won't be able to free yourself. You would not become a complete. like self-actualized individual. You know, Maslow hierarchy of needs. You'll never be able to self-actualize if you keep on repressing that version of yourself.
Mm.
And you have to heal to truly heal because something somewhere along the way you may have not noticed it, but something that person took from you or was broken, and it's causing some type of setback in your life. And
Mm.
it may not show its ugly head now, but it almost always does. And you hear those stories. You hear those like that. I've got an NBA player who went through that, and he had depression, anxiety. It happens. It manifests,
Mhm.
and then you owe it to
Mhm.
yourself to reclaim, like Maxine Waters said, reclaiming my time. Reclaim that time when you were vulnerable. Let people like tell yourself that it was not your fault. Forgive yourself because you that blame happens too.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself and understand that you at one point you were vulnerable, now you're not. Go heal so you can help someone because maybe you being silent, it allows first of all allows that person who has not been brought to light to get away with things, but it
Mm.
also could be preventing you from helping someone who may look up to you and may need to that type of as humans we know we like to relate to one another,
Yeah.
and sometimes the relation is not necessarily positive. Sometimes we relate
Right. That's true.
we sometimes we bond through trauma.
That's true. That's so
So,
true. Trauma
and
bond.
so
That's right.
exactly. So I tell those for those men, I want you guys to understand that it happened. Your feelings were valid, and they are valid. And if you want to, you can actually change. You can change what that has done to you. And if you need help, like I tell everyone, if you need help, I'm here to help you through it. I don't mind
Mhm.
telling my story because there's so much that we can't even possibly get into that went it because it wasn't the last time that happened to me. The military, it happened, but we'll say that happens
Mhm.
a lot in the
Wow.
military. It happens a lot in the military.
Wow.
People don't want to talk about that, but it happens a lot.
Wow. Pause. I really want you to hear what Quinton had to say about his time in the military, some of the things that would just completely blow your mind. But I'm going to save that for my members only. So if you are a channel member in a high tier, please go on over and watch that video right now. And I will see you all over on that side. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, please go down below in the description box. Everything is going to be right there. Throughout this whole conversation, you've mentioned God, and I just want you to talk a little bit about, and I know this always kind of turns people off, but I am a woman of God. I'm a Christian.
Yep.
I believe very strongly in the Bible. I believe in God's word. And, I
Okay.
believe that he really is able to heal because,
Yes.
I've been through some things too, and he's healed me in some
Oh
many
yes.
respects, I should say. But like, talk about the role that God has played in your life in kind of getting you on the other side.
I'm glad you asked that too, because I mean, people know you've been through my people been through my channel, went through my shorts. I've mentioned God. I even talked about Second Timothy. Second Timothy talked about what's going on right now with how people in these last times and evil days, people will be lovers of themselves, boastful and money hungry. I believe that the Bible is a great way to template your life. I believe that it has a
Mm.
great framework to keep you moral. People say, "Oh, you're a morality police." Well, I don't want to live in a
No.
society. I don't want to live in a society that's immoral.
Well,
Like,
that's true.
I
That's
think
true.
so. People, do you understand what would happen? Like the Bible said, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal." Honor thy father and thy mother. Be honest. What is wrong with that? I understand there's other things in
Mhm.
there that people can pick apart. That's fine.
Mhm.
But to me, my faith is my foundation. It allowed me to
Mhm.
know that even when I had no one on my side, or seemingly no one on my side, I had God.
Mm.
If for the grace of God, I would have been out of here a long time ago. Because at one point it got so much that I said it'd be better off if I was not here than if I was here.
Mm.
And I promise you, all my kids, like, a voice came out and said, not yet. Not yet, my son. That was a vivid dream, and we could talk about that offline, but it was a dream that I had that was so real, and it put me on my path of purpose. It let me know then and there that something in me, God has a plan for me. And I tell people all the time, you are the only version of you. He made you
Mhm.
for a reason.
Mhm.
All the little swimmy things going to the edge, you made it.
You
You made
exactly.
it. So you made it. You're the miracle. You're the miracle. And
Mm.
all you have to do is keep on keeping on. Staying with like trouble don't last always, right? They say
No, it
it's always
doesn't.
dark. They say it's always dark before the dawn. So
Mhm.
because I know that, when I'm down in the dumps, I tell myself keep on going. Because sometimes right on the other side of that trouble is that release, is that help, is that miracle
Absolutely.
that I'm looking for. And so to me, for my foundation is always going to be God. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing and no one can ever change that.
Same.
And so from that strong foundation, I build everything else
Mm-hmm.
onto that. And my grandmother I thank you, Grandma Lucy. Grandma Lucy, I love you. Like she is the reason why I have the faith that I have, because I saw that woman would live
Mm-hmm.
through so much. She was born in the
Yeah.
30s in
Mm-hmm.
this country, in that
Mm-hmm.
state,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she never allowed hate. She's the sweetest person. When she walk in the room, you feel the anointing on that woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she has that presence. And I said, Grandma, why can't people shake you? You lost your kid, you lost my Uncle Jeffrey, you lost Auntie Michelle, like you lost your daughter-in-law, and how do you deal with losing your kid? So me, that is the ultimate thing I don't want to go through. And she said, well, God gave me this gift, and it was time for Him to take it away.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
and I,
She
and I,
sound
and
like
I
my
live in.
Grammy.
And she said, I live in that moment of that, all those great moments I had with them. I get to keep. I get to
Mm.
stay with them. And though it hurts me to lose their physical form, I never lose their spirit. And I'm like, Grandma, like, oh, I'm about to cry. And she like,
I
she
know. I
just,
love that. I
she just,
love that, and it
she,
reminds just hearing you say that reminds me of my late grandmother too, because I don't know, maybe they just had a serious wisdom about them, and I mean, like she was a woman in the
yes,
Bible too. She was
yes,
uncompromising about being in that Bible. She was like, I mean, she wasn't playing when it comes to the Lord
at
word. She's like,
all,
oh
at
Jesus,
all,
you know.
exactly.
So I love that, and so that's in you. That's in you, and I could certainly relate to you saying, there were times when you could have not wanted to be here. I say the same thing. I can actually say the same thing. A year or two ago, I had done a video. I made it. I privated the video. I don't even know if
Yeah,
that's a word, privated. I made it private. But I talked about like my struggle too from like 13 into adulthood with
yeah,
wanting to end my life. And also, there was a pivotal moment, and this was the last time I ever thought about wanting to take my life. Um, I was going to do it. I knew
hmm
how I was going to do it, and I'd never heard God's voice before this time.
hmm
And He said to me, and I'll never forget it, if you do that, that will permanently separate you from me.
hmm
And that
yeah,
may mean nothing to anyone else. That may
but
mean
it's
nothing to anyone who
scary.
here, but it scared the crap out of me enough for me to
Exactly.
say, okay, that ain't happening. That ain't ever happening. So I'm grateful for him. I know there are folks who are gonna watch and tune in and be like, oh, here they go talking about God. Well, I mean, it's my channel. I run my platform how I want to. It's my experience. It's my faith. Um,
Exactly.
but I'm just so appreciative for all that God has done for me. And I look at you from your email. I was like so excited to meet you because you've been such a light, even in email, even in the word form. By the way, anyone who knows, when they're coming on my platform, it takes forever to get hooked up with me because I
Yeah.
always have like scheduling conflicts and stuff like that. And I just always really appreciate the people who are very patient with me. And you were super patient. And I'm sorry on one hand that you went through everything that you went through, but I know that nothing that you went through has been wasted.
Oh,
You
yes.
know, nothing that you went through is wasted because in your pain, in your struggle, in everything that you went through, you have no idea how many people you are helping, how many people you're building up. And I'm just happy to hear that, you're so in love with your kids and you want to do right by them and break those cycles, those vicious cycles. And so I do applaud you for that. I really do, Quentin. And I thank you for being on this platform.
No, I appreciate you. Like, I know your channel was just so eye-opening, and I saw that light on you. Like, I thank God that you're still here because
Thank you.
that light, like that gift that you have, I don't know if you realize, like, there's an ease when talking to you. Like, whenever when you speak on a topic, it can be the most like
Thank you.
devastating topic or saddest topic, and how you deliver it, it makes you just sit up and like. Even my fiance, she'd be like, "You love watching her." I'm like, because she gets it. She has her own emotional take, but then she'll speak from the other side of things and letting me know that you have been through something, and you have actually had that ear to listen to other people's stories and say, I may not have been through it, but at least I heard about it and I took your story and I applied it to my life, and that's what I tell people. We are a quilt. Like quilt was very popular in Black communities. That quilt You take you take somebody else's story and you weave it to yours. And weave it to yours. And that's the story of humanity. You weave it together. And that's how we get back to loving each other. That's how we get back to unity. We start weaving our stories and stop realizing that our little piece of the quilt is separate from yours. Oh, you're white, you're black, you're fat, you're short. No, we are human. We're God's greatest gift. And all we have to do is just listen. And for those who don't want, like Malcolm X said, I can't die unless you let me die. I'm not a dying unless you let me die. So I tell people, at my table, I got room for everyone at this table.
That's right.
As long as you're ready, you're ready to actually make some moves towards, healing and not move toward destruction. Because I'm not a creature of destruction. I'm a creature of a creation. So that's my.
Oh my God, I appreciate that. And I thank you so much for your kind words. I really, really do. You know how we say, you got an anointing on your life.
Exactly. And those revivals, those 10 revivals,
I know, that's right. Thank you so much, Quinton.
You're welcome.
I'm so appreciative. Thank you. And you have a wonderful day. It's snowing like crazy here in DC.
Oh yeah, be safe.
And
Oh my God.
I was praying, like you couldn't hear it. I don't think you heard it, but it's like crazy outside. So I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday.
You take care. Take care again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I don't know if I mentioned my name earlier, but my name is Rogan. And this is the This Being a Gyal podcast. On my platform, I do social commentary and reaction videos. I encourage my audience to have private conversations in public. I will see you in the next episode. Toodles. Bye.